Hello, welcome to Graphs. Let's just get into it, right? Alright, so I figured out some stuff with the pen, so it should be a little better now. Uh, yeah, apparently. Anyways, let's begin. So with graphs, we're really just going to go over two of them. The two graphs are the pie graph, the pie chart, sorry, and the bar graph. And the reason we're going to go over these is because they're the two most useful ones for measuring categorical data. So that's data that has a finite series to it. It can be ranked and ordered, and it's for example, like car names or wine types. Now, we're going to have that as the theme for this one. Wine. There we go. Wine. And love heart. Ew. For you guys. Alright, so let's go with wine. Now, let's just draw this out. So let's begin with a pie chart. So maybe I'll make that a bit bigger. It's just a little bit small. Yeah. So what we're trying to do is see what proportions our information is spread about. So what does the spread of our information roughly look like amongst the categories that are in here? And now let's have two categories, red and white wine. So we're just being general. And we're going to say that what we're interested in is personal preference. Cool. Personal preference. Something like that. Whatever. I'm going to put a question mark because I don't know if that's how you spell it. I'm not a professional, whatever it's called, dictionary. So let's say that 60% of people like red wine. And we'll donate that with the red. And that we won't donate with white, we do blue for the other one. And that 40% of people enjoy white wine overall. So this gives us information about roughly how our categories spread out. Now you can obviously have more categories, and actually that comes into being a problem later. Let's say that this was wine categories, but we were looking at every single, let's say, brand of wine, of which there must be thousands. Now, a pie chart is not useful for this. What you can do to make it useful is choose all of the values that are over a certain percentage, let's say 3% of market share, and then represent the remainder as other. But a pie chart would not be useful for what is potentially thousands of pieces of information. Now let's change this to teal. Oh, yeah, there we go. And we'll change this to, yep, cool. And now we're going to look at a bar graph. So a bar graph is it's basically used for comparing. You want to make a comparison of two or more categorical variables. Categorical variables. So, and another love heart. Boom. Alright, cool. So you want to make a comparison of two or more categorical variables. So let's say we're looking at the sales of white wine and red wine during the year. So first things first, we label our axes. So this is the sales. We'll put in brackets quantity. And then this is the months. So Jan, December. Now let's give, what was it, red wine is red? Well, I mean, that sounds so dumb to say that. Obviously it is. So let's say that this one here is the sales in January. This here is the sales of red wine in the middle of the year. Right at, oh, that's very off center. And right at the end of the year, we see that red wine sales spike. And now let's go to our blue. Why do they keep doing that? And we see that white wine pretty much sells the same throughout the year. I don't know if these are accurate, though. This is just an example. For any wine enthusiast, feel free to go ahead and look this up. So now one thing that's important to note is that you want to have, you need to have these gaps just in here between your categories. So if we had a third category here, this is just an example right now, but you would want another gap like that. And I'll just get rid of those lines. But you want to have another gap. You need to have gaps between your information so that it shows that it's not another type of graph, which is called a histogram, and we're going to go over that later. Lastly, you need to make sure that your axes are labeled so people know what the comparison is against. And once you have the data down that you're interested in, you can then see what the information looks like. So we'll look at the red wine sales, and you notice that there's an upward trend. Well, that's pretty good. That means that as the months go by in a year, that red wine sales increase. So as a shop owner, you might want to, let me just change to red. So as a shop owner, you might say this. Okay, so less red wine, more red wine. And then the year progressing. So as the year is progressing, you'll want to have more red wine available because it's going to become more in demand. Conversely, if you're looking at the white wine, you might say, so as the same shop, you might say, doesn't matter. Because approximately the same amount of white wine gets sold over the period of time, right? So why would it matter how much white wine you have on stock? All you need to do is stock the correct amount. And for each given month, you'll have enough white wine. And that's generally what you want for a bar graph. Let's say that there was, I think there's like a pink wine or like a rose wine. I'm not sure if that's true, but you might want to denote that with another graph. You can always compare that. That's another category that you're more than welcome to compare. Again, bar graphs have the same problem as pie charts in that they really do have an upper limit for how many categories you can compare. Let's say again that this was the brands of wine and you chose all of them. That could thousands of these little things would just be. Could you imagine how long the graph would be? I mean, it'd be insane. Each of those categories needs to have a gap. But that's graphs. Hopefully this has taught you something. Next up, we're going to be going over histograms, this special thing called an ogive, box plots, stem and leaf graphs. But the reason I left that separate is because of this key fundamental concept. I'm going to write it down in pink so that way you learn it. Can anyone complete this word? Shay Fu is pretty big on singing a song about this because he's singing about those misty frequencies. Okay, so frequency. This here is going to be one of the most important words for you during this course. Frequency means so much. It is the occurrence of a particular event, and it comes up all the time. In fact, this might very well be the most important word that you're going to learn in your course.